Hi, everyone.
Hi there. We are back.
We're back for
I'm
another
excited.
so excited.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, man. So today, we are talking about how today is your day to...
Focus.
Choose your focus. Choose your focus.
Okay. Like,
we know what we're talking about,
we do. We really plan this out. Kind of, sort of. All right. So, choosing your focus.
Today is your day to choose your focus. And what the hell do we mean by that? We'll tell you.
Okay. So, there's a part of you that is plodding along, doing your thing. Do, 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 do. Good things happen, bad things happen. Do, 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 do.
And you're really swayed emotionally by what's happening around you.
Mm-hmm.
So Saira is mean to me, let's say. I'm going to be devastated. Well, I would be devastated, actually. So please don't do that. She was mean to me. So Saira's mean to me, and I'm devastated, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and then something good happens. Maybe someone buys me a coffee, and I'm happy.
Right.
And then
you're
something
like,
bad happens, and I'm devastated.
Right.
And I'm totally swayed emotionally by what's going on around me, and I feel like I have no control over my emotions because my emotions are based on whatever's happening, which is beyond my control.
And I would say the majority of us function like that.
Yes.
The majority of us. And we've been doing that for a long time.
And you might be thinking, yeah, that's how life
Normal.
works, people.
It's a normal thing.
What are we even talking about here? But there is a flip side. There's another normal.
Right. So when we're talking about choosing your focus, you can either focus on this kind of reality where, you know, the things around you affect you and you get upset, you get happy, you get down, you get whatever, and you're kind of this being tossed around in the river of life.
Right.
Or something completely different. And that's something we've been tapping into the last few months. And it's like
so weird, but it's so cool.
It's totally changed our lives. And we can see when we're out of alignment with that, when we go back to that old focus, how quickly things deteriorate.
Yes.
How quickly.
Yeah. So the new way to focus is not on what's happening around you. Rather, it's on how you want to feel.
Right.
So anything could be happening. Saira could be mean to me. Someone could be buying me a coffee. Something good could be happening. Something bad could be happening. I don't really care because what I'm thinking about is right now, I want to feel happy.
Right.
And that's my focus. And so no matter what's happening around me, I'm choosing my thoughts very deliberately, saying, okay, so this bad thing happened. I could either get sucked into it and think about all of the repercussions of this bad thing, or I could think, okay, yeah, this happened. This is kind of my reality right now, but I'm choosing to feel good anyway, you know, and I'm choosing to just think about something that feels really good. So maybe I'll think about, it's hard to get my focus on.
I know, like there's a lot, I don't know if you guys can hear, but there's a lot of noise going on. I'm like, I am focusing.
Like coughing, and like doors opening and closing, and like
phone ringtones.
Music. And I'm like, what am I saying? What am I saying? What am I saying?
But that's it.
Get it out.
But that's how life is, right? And I think that's totally appropriate that it's
is.
happening because life is like that. Like you're trying to like have a deep intellectual or a deep emotional moment, and there's all these distractions, and it's sometimes hard to stay focused on. Can I stay focused on that part of me that's just peaceful and serene and happy and connected, rather than that part of me that gets like thrown around?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so what you can start to do, and it's so funny because when you start doing this, you feel like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I choosing to be happy even though bad stuff is happening around me? Isn't that kind of delusional again? Like, isn't that kind of crazy? But here's the thing is that when you're focused on, we'll call it your vibrational reality. That's kind of a weird term.
Well, let's explain it.
Okay,
so we have to take a couple step backs. Okay, so the idea is that we are, yes, we're physical beings, but we're also vibrational beings. There's also a kind of an energy that flows through everything, right? So that's the philosophy that we're working with, that
and
there's this vibration.
Yeah, and when you're hearing something or speaking or anything that you're doing with your senses, you're actually translating vibrations. It's kind of like the radio. I have no clue how the radio works, but I think it's kind of the same thing.
Right, there's like these waves.
Frequencies.
And you have to kind of tune your radio station to kind of pick up on the frequency.
Right.
So when you look at light, you're not... The way that light works, is it harder to see in the dark? Because the light. I mean, I'm not a scientist. God knows.
Well, you are kind of a scientist.
Kind of.
But not this type of a scientist.
Right? But I remember studying this in the psych classes about how like eyes work and how the light waves work, and it's all about waves and vibrations and even sound, right? Did you know? Here's a tidbit. Here's a science fact. Underwater. So you know, if you were to like yell to me across like maybe, you know, a couple houses down, I might be able to hear you, right? If you were to go like 2 blocks away, I probably couldn't hear you, right? Underwater, whales can hear about 6 city blocks away.
Wow.
I know. So the vibration in the water is much louder or more like strong, I guess, for their sensory systems to pick up. So 6 city blocks of sound they can hear.
Oh gosh, that's so
I know.
cool.
So that's why when there's like oil tankers and stuff going through, it's really loud for them, even if it's far away. I know.
Whales.
And it affects things. But the good news is, or the point that I was making is that different beings, different like creatures on the planet, process vibrations in different ways.
Yeah.
Right? So some it's like sonar, like they can do the sonar thing. We do sound in a different way. We do light in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have actually trained themselves to pick up other kinds of vibrations as well. So there's other frequencies that, only a small group of people have access to.
Right.
Call them mind readers or like energy workers or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So they're accessing other vibrations.
Yeah.
So vibrationally, there's no good or bad,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's just alignment or misalignment.
Right.
So either you're aligned to your truest self vibrationally or you're not.
And you're always vibrating with something.
Yeah.
Right? So you could be vibrating with the version of reality that you're choosing to see right now, whatever's happening around you. And what that's going to do is it's going to cause more of the same. So if you're thinking about the conflict that you have at work and you're thinking about the conflict and you're thinking about the conflict, you're vibrating on the same level as the conflict and you're going to keep getting more conflict.
Mm-hmm.
If the conflict is happening, but you're choosing to think about the things that are going really well, like, oh, I have this new friendship with Saira. She's amazing. It feels so nice to have a friend like that. And you're thinking about that. You're thinking about that. You're actually vibrating on a different level. And what you're attracting is more of the same. So you're attracting more friends like Saira.
Mm-hmm.
More experiences that make you feel that way.
Right. So just before we started filming, I was saying to Jena that I have like all these $100 bills all over my house. There's like little pockets of money everywhere. And then as soon as we took a break, someone in my family gave me like $500.
Yeah.
Like just
money's just like falling from the sky.
Just like here, Merry Christmas. And I was like, oh, thank you, right? But because my anxiety about money is gone now, because my worry about money, because of my like beliefs about where money comes from, it's all gone. Yeah. And so I'm making space for things to come to me from all sorts of places.
Exactly. Right? So in the past, if she was worried about money, her vibrations, her thoughts, because our thoughts are vibrations, right? Her thoughts would be on worry, worry, worry. And she would be attracting more reasons to worry about money.
Right.
And now that she's relaxed about money, her thoughts are on abundance and how life is easy and things just come to me. And, I'm just constantly being provided for. And her vibrations are now in line with things just coming to her. Like money's just coming to her.
Falling out of the sky.
It's just like, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I'm going to enjoy that.
Like, I'm actually at the point now where I'm saving.
Wow.
Like, for years, I haven't had extra to save. Like, I mean, we save for, like, our retirement and stuff, but not just for, like, fun money to save for, like, something exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm saving. I called my sister this morning, and she wants to go to a trip overseas in 2 years. Like, she's giving me 2 years because she knows how long it takes me to save. She's like, you have 2 years! Make sure you have the money. And I called her, and I'm like, I actually have money in that envelope now.
That's amazing.
Right? Because I'm not in this zone of like, oh, there's not enough.
Yeah.
And it took time. Like, remember when we first met? That's like, I was all in that space of there's not enough. Even till like a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And not anymore.
And it happens so quickly. And all it really takes is a conscious effort, a deliberate focus of attention. Mm-hmm. So what I started to do is training my mind to constantly think I constantly think that sorry, I was reading your thing on your computer.
People want to pay me more. That's a reminder that just popped up on my computer as we were talking. Right? So I have this distracted me. People want to pay me more. And I believe that.
Right? Yeah. So what I always think is that the universe is always providing for me. And I have little pop-ups like that too on my phone. Like my calendar, I have 18 events every day because it's just like, oh, people love you, people want to pay you, and things are good, and the universe is providing. But anyway, so what it takes is a focus on starting to think those thoughts more regularly. You're basically training your brain as if you were going to run a marathon, right? If you were going to run a marathon, you would be training every single day or every other day. I've never trained for a marathon, so I don't know how it works, but I'm assuming that you'd be training like a few times a week.
Yeah.
Right?
Like you have to rest your muscles or something.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe that's not a good analogy.
But it has to be consistent. Right? So you can do like Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, but it has to be consistent. Yeah. And every week if you miss one, you're kind of...
Or if you were training for a new job, let's say.
Okay.
Right? So you get hired to be a barista at Starbucks. And
I kind of wanted to do that.
Oh, I did that because it was my lifelong dream.
Yeah. Was it super fun?
It was amazing.
Did you get free coffee?
Yeah. And then it was really hard to pay for coffee ever again after that. Because I was like, I know what this is worth. Free. shop for you, shop for me. It was like one of those baristas. And I would give out free stuff to everyone. Like, I don't know how they didn't realize that they weren't making as much money.
Like, something's changed. Profit margin has gone down since Jena started working. Did you misspell people's names all the time?
No, it was pre-spelling people's names. Yeah, It was just like when you would just yell out, tall soy milk latte.
What's your favorite Starbucks?
What's my favorite drink? Right now, it's a grande soy latte.
Grande soy latte.
And
if you ever want to get her a coffee.
Grande soy latte.
Grande soy latte.
Yeah. What's yours?
Tall vanilla latte. Decaf.
Of course. Mine is extra calf. Put all her calf in mine.
Sorry, we totally digress. Back to if you...
Okay, so you get your job, like all over the place. So you get your job at Starbucks. You go in and you just assume this barista mentality. You're like, I'm a barista now. And everything you do has to be about coffee. You learn about coffee beans. You learn about like the passports. You just like immerse yourself in that environment. You learn how to make the drinks. You learn how to talk to the customers. It's like that. It's like training yourself for a new job. You totally immerse yourself.
You have to act like you're already in the job. Like, you have to act like you know what you're doing.
Yeah. So
and you can say, I'm in training.
Exactly.
And so people will be like, oh,
they'll be gentle with you. The universe will be gentle with you if you're in training.
Right.
But you don't go up to the front and you're not like, you don't have a big, frown on your face and you're like, what do you want? Because that's not how a barista acts. Like, you have to be happy, right?
Right.
You put yourself in that position until you believe it. And I think that's the process.
When did it change for you? When did you actually feel like, okay, now I know what I'm doing as a barista?
Like when I was actually working at Starbucks? Oh, I felt like it right away. Because it was such a dream of mine. As soon as I put on that green apron, I was like, I have arrived, people.
And so the same can be true about feeling successful.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, so I graduated and I got my degree and then I started to see clients. But there was a period of time that I didn't really feel like really a therapist. I didn't really feel like I was really... First, I didn't feel like a therapist. Yeah. Then I didn't feel like I was a successful therapist. That was the next level. So once I started actually feeling like a therapist, then it was like, okay, now what would it be like to feel like a successful therapist? And now I just know that's what I am. Like, it's not like this big thing that I'm pretending to be. It's just who I am. And people see me that way. Yeah. Right? Now, whether I have like one client a week or 15 clients a week, or whether I charge $60 or $300, nobody knows. But I just have that.
But you're a therapist either way.
A successful therapist, right? And so with success, it can be the same thing. You assume the apron, you wear that green apron of barista or of success or of happiness or of whatever it is, right? For me, also when I got married, right? Because I'm like, I don't know what a wife does. What does a wife do? What does that even mean, right? Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be a wife and see what that looks like for me, right? And so starting to define it as we went along.
Right.
Motherhood is like that. Holy God. Geez, there's so many experiences where I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing here, but I think this is what I want to do as a mom. Yeah. Right? And like last night, my kids were sick, and it was just like, I had to just hold them. Yeah. I'm like, I guess that's what I'm going to do. Because that's what I would want someone to do for me when I'm sick, right? Like, I have no idea. I didn't read that anywhere. But we make it up.
And you have all the information that you need already, because we're all tapped into source or whatever, right? Whatever you want to call it. We all have a soul, and we have all the information that we need. We're never at a loss.
Right. And it can be, when we're trying to choose our focus, I've had clients and family members, and even myself, I've done this where I've been looking for advice. You're asking all these different.
That's a trap.
I have a client who will ask she has 4 different friends of hers who are therapists, and she'll ask all of us our opinions. Yeah. And I started telling her I'm not going to give you my opinion. Yeah. Like, you need to find the answer for yourself, right? So because all these people out there, they're going to be coming from it from their own experience, from their own ulterior motives sometimes, and at the end of the day, you're going to do what you want to do anyway. Yeah. So why not just start by doing what you want to do? Because then you'll start feeling confident in your own decision making.
Yeah, you have to trust yourself first.
It's hard though, right?
It's hard. But I would argue that for anything that you do in life, when you can be happy first, the answer just comes to you. And I think that's what we've learned about happiness, is that all that other stuff, like learning how to be a good this or a good that, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Because if you're not happy... and you're not feeling good about yourself, then no matter what you do, you're always going to think that you're lacking, right? So you could try to be a good wife for the rest of your life. If you're miserable, you're never going to feel like a good anything. Right. You're just going to be miserable. Right. But if you're happy, what happens is you learn to relax. Because when you're happy, you have this belief that everything's going to work out.
Mm-hmm.
And you just inherently start to calm down because you realize that nothing is that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's going to work out. Things are just coming to you. Things just start to happen when you focus on the reality of how you want to feel rather than what's going on around you.
And sometimes it's when you're in the funk or when you're in a bad space, like say there's been some tragedy or trauma or something,
Mm-hmm.
it can feel like a real stretch to get to happy, right?
So then you just look for relief.
Right. And so then what you're focusing on is what's going to make me feel better, just a little bit better.
So you always have a choice. You can either feel better or feel worse.
Right.
That's your choice in any given moment. It doesn't matter if you're depressed or hopeful, right? You can still feel better or worse.
Right.
If you're frustrated, you can feel better or worse, right? So you just have to tap into, firstly, the idea that you want to feel better. And then secondly, you just experiment. What thought makes me feel better right now?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you have to solve the problem. When you're happy, there's no problems to solve.
Right.
But when you're upset and just trying to feel better, you don't have to solve anything. You just have to think, what brings me more relief? Because when you start to feel relieved, the answers just come.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing that you specifically have to do because your life is supposed to feel good and be joyful. And there's always well-being flowing to you and through you. When you can relax, you let it in.
And you always have a choice. So even in like mental illnesses like depression, right, where it doesn't feel like you have any choice, where you're locked into this bad mood. Well, I mean, much more than a bad mood. It's a clinical condition and you're locked in and it doesn't feel like you have a choice. Even in the depths of that despair, you still have small choices, right?
Yeah.
Do I choose to sit up in my bed rather than lie down in my bed? Okay, I can't get out of bed. I'm not going to be able to get out of bed. But could I at least sit up in my bed?
Yeah.
Right? Could I maybe... after 6 hours of sitting in my bed and I'm starting to get like my body's starting to get uncomfortable. Now am I going to just maybe have a nap in my bed? Right? So even those where it doesn't feel like there's choice, even with physical illnesses, like for example, if you're diagnosed with a life-threatening condition or a chronic condition, within that diagnosis, what choices can you make to bring just a little bit relief, to make you feel just a little bit better for a period of time?
Right.
And if you can feel a little bit better, then you feel a little bit more better, a little bit more better, a little bit more better.
And the thing about depression, actually, so we listen to a lot of Abraham, and Abraham talks about the emotional scale, and depression is on one end of it, and knowing is on the other end. And throughout, there's all of these other things. But you know what's a more relieving feeling than depression? This might surprise you. It's anger.
Because anger has
rage.
juice. Yeah.
And sometimes you can start to go from feeling hopeless, which is depression, to feeling really angry. And you might think that you're getting worse. And the people around you are not going to like you when you're angry because suddenly you're there and they have to deal with you and they'd rather you be depressed. So they'll kind of try to push you back into depression. But anger is actually a step up. And from anger, then you turn to maybe revenge, right? Revenge is one of them.
Somebody's got to pay.
Yeah. And then from that, I think it's frustration. Do you remember?
Frustration, irritation.
Yeah. And then hopefulness. And then belief. And then knowing. Right? So you can only move from where you are
to the next thing.
But your inner source is always calling you towards joy eventually. But you have to move through the stages.
And sometimes people want to like bypass some of those.
Right.
Like there's a term that one of my teachers uses called spiritual bypass, where it's like, oh, I'm fine, everything's fine. Inside you're dying, but you're not being honest. Yeah. And so I think sometimes there's a confusion in this whole work around happiness where we think, oh, just put on a happy face and it'll be fine.
Right.
And that's not what we're saying, right? We're saying be where you are and know that it's going to change. And it can change with your thoughts, with your focus, with your attention.
Right.
Right.
And so even when we're talking about, putting on the green apron and training, that's not just faking it. That's knowing with an intention, having an intention that you want to be happy. So you know that all roads lead to happiness. And you finally decided that you're on the path. So it's not about just faking it till you make it. It's about knowing that you're going to do the hard work. Because it is hard work to get happy. It is. It's not easy to be happy. It's really not, because you're actively avoiding the things in your life that are making you miserable. Not avoiding them by not going near them, but by not letting them drag you down. Right? So you're building that muscle. The muscle, yeah.
And it takes effort, right? Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily say it's hard, but it does take effort. It takes consistent effort. And sometimes we slip, and then we end up in like a happiness hangover. We've talked about that in our other episode, right? Or we get caught in a funk. We've talked about that in one of our episodes. So there are times when you're not going to feel it. And
it's all part of the process.
Right. And then as we do that, we get more and more refined in our desires, right? We start feeling like, okay, well, that was okay, but this would be even better. And we
Right.
start like kind of getting more clear on what we really do want.
Right.
And you know, one of the things, Jena, that we've talked about before is being willing to want. Like being willing to have a desire.
Yes.
There's been a period of my life where I felt like it wasn't even safe to want anything, to want happiness, to want a partner, to want a job, because I felt like if I wanted those things, I'd just be disappointed anyway.
Yeah.
So don't even want it.
Yeah, well, I've been in that exact same position
Right?
too. Yeah.
And so
it's miserable because you're like, well, what the hell am I living for?
And so then if you think about where my focus was at that time, the focus was on the lack.
Yes.
Right? I don't have this, I don't have that, I'm not going to even think about it. But of course I was thinking about it all the time. That's all I could think about, but I was pretending to focus on something else.
Right.
Right? Whereas if the focus could be on, well, what do I have right now? This is one of the things that Abraham talks about in the law of attraction. We're sometimes afraid to be okay where we are now because we think then I'll be stuck here forever.
Yeah.
I'll be stuck here forever.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm okay, and like if I'm, my husband and I are arguing all the time, and how can I be okay with that? Because I want it to change. And so we keep pushing and fighting and pushing and fighting rather than just like relaxing in, seeing what's really going on here, taking a few breaths, and then allowing it to shift in its natural timing.
Because the thing is that our universe is built on inclusion, right? So if you say yes to something, if you say yes to a better relationship, yes, I want more happiness in my relationship, that's great. But if you say no to fighting, no, I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight anymore. You're actually saying yes to fighting.
it. Yeah.
You're actually bringing that in,
right?
So you can say yes to happiness and you can feel enthusiastic about it, or you can feel awful that you're fighting all the time. Whatever you're focused on, that's what you're going to get more of.
Right.
So the universe doesn't understand the word no. It just knows that if you think about something, it thinks you want more of that thing.
Right.
So it's going to be like, oh, great, I'm going to make you happy by giving you more fights. Here you go. You want it. You're thinking about it all the time.
That's exactly what we were talking about by vibrational alignment, right?
Yeah.
So the vibrationally aligned thought would be, I want more happiness in my relationship.
Yeah.
The out of aligned thought would be, I don't want to fight anymore.
And it's not just about the thought, it's about the thought and the emotion behind it, right?
Right.
So you can think, I want more happiness in my relationship, but you can feel miserable about it because you know that you don't have that happiness right now. And that's effectively the same thing as thinking, I want to fight more. Right? So if you're thinking, I want more happiness though, and you're feeling eager and enthusiastic about the idea of having a happier relationship, that's pulling it towards you. So it's about getting into that space where you feel eager about life because you know that life is bringing you good things. So again, it boils down to faith. Once you have faith that your life is working out well for you and that things are working for you, not against you, then it's easy to feel eager about life. But if you feel like the world is against you and that you don't even know if life is supposed to be good, or you think that struggle is supposed to be what brings you joy, then you're not going to get there, right? Because you're going to be so focused on the struggle.
And, I think we were listening to Abraham where she was saying that 99% of our time is spent resisting.
Yes.
And our energy is
How
spent.
huge is that?
That's like almost everything. And only 1% is spent actually allowing, right? And the Course in Miracles talks about how we're all moving to the light. Like that's our natural instinct, is to move towards the light.
Yeah.
Right? As creatures. So we are, break it down to like nocturnal. So my son, his science. So my 7-year-old loves animals and like learning about animals and all that. So I always get these like facts from him, right? So one of them is that there's a difference between nocturnal creatures and, I don't know what they're called, dayturnal. I don't know, the daytime creatures and the nighttime creatures. Nighttime creatures are actually designed to thrive at night. We are not nighttime creatures. We are designed to sleep at night, right?
Yeah.
We do not have protection. We do not have the eyesight. We are designed to sleep at night. And so if you look at that as a metaphor, like we're actually, at a soul level, we're designed to thrive in light, in happiness, in goodness. We're not designed to thrive in like difficulty and darkness and despair. And yet there's so much of that around us that we could easily get pulled into thinking that's normal and that's where we should live.
And society kind of tries to make us think that,
right?
Because everybody around you, other than the two of us, probably a lot of people around you believe that if you just relax and let good things come to you, you're lazy.
Right.
Or you have no ambition.
Right.
And
things are going to fall apart.
Yeah. And I've heard that sometimes, like from different people. Actually, that was me a while ago, where I'd be like, oh, well, she just wants to like sit at home, so she obviously has no ambition and doesn't want to do anything with her life, and I feel sorry for her, right? That was totally my perspective until I learned about happiness, and now I realize that when you can just relax and let good things happen to you, so much good stuff happens.
Because we're wired for that. Like on a soul level, on an energy level, we're wired to move towards the light. We're wired to move towards lightness and happiness and joy and ease. We don't really do well in trauma and tragedy. Like just look at the impacts, and there's an entire science, it's called psychology, around the impact of trauma and tragedy. Right? We're not wired for that. We don't do very well with that. And the way through, if we have had trauma and tragedy, the best way through is loving kindness. When people can have loving kindness towards us, that actually heals us. Yeah. And so you get to choose, right? Do you want to look at the trauma? And, we're therapists, so we've been actually trained to help people get through their trauma and tragedy and talk about their trauma and tragedy and go there and dig it up. But we've learned that actually doesn't help.
It does not help to talk about your trauma.
Does not help. It does not help to continually revisit the pain. Yeah. Right? You may need to talk about it to lift it, but then
and to gain a new perspective.
Right. And then to learn the lessons that were there for you, and then move through it and focus on what you want.
And here's another thing that really helps. When I think about trauma or tragedy of any kind, I also think about the idea of contrast. So in the law of attraction, they basically say that anytime you go through a negative experience, or any experience really, what these experiences, the reason that they exist is so that you can sort through what you want and what you don't want. Because the universe always wants us to have what we want. So when you can sort through what you want and what you don't want, the best way to do that is to go through a negative experience, because you realize really clearly, I don't want this, and I do want the opposite of this, right? So if you can think about your past as just a sorting period of, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. And then from this point onwards, I've done my sorting. Like I have a bunch of good stuff there that the universe knows that I want. It's like a Christmas list to Santa. It's like, this is all the stuff that I want, universe. I've been a good girl. Bring me my goodies. And then you just relax and let it come to you. Right?
Right. And so if you can focus on your Santa list and not on all the, how it's going to get there and who's going to bring it, and just focus on the list of these are the things I want, and I know they're coming to me in some period of time. Yeah. The Course in Miracles says the only difference between a regular event and a miracle is the passage of time. Okay. So if you break your knee, or you break your bone, the body will eventually heal itself, right? You might add a cast, which will make sure it heals maybe quicker and maybe more aligned. A miracle would mean it heals instantly. So instead of taking 6 months to heal, or five months, or 3 months, it's healing now. So it's just the passage of time that's changed. Right. The healing is going to happen. Yeah. Right. And so as we're manifesting, as we're bringing things to us, the only difference between that thing coming anyway and coming quickly is the passage of time. And so when we get attached and we say, okay, it's going to take me 5 years to build this business. Yeah, it will take you 5 years to build this business. If I'm going to say, you know what, universe, I want to build this business. Let's see how fast we can do it. It'll happen quickly.
Yeah, right? Because you're not getting in your own way.
Right.
Like you're not throwing all of those beliefs on it. Like, oh, this has to take a long time, otherwise it's not legit.
Right. And it has to be hard, and I have to struggle, and I might go bankrupt a couple times on the way, and then I'll be successful.
And then finally I will feel like maybe I deserve it now. You already deserve the good stuff. Right. So when you can, I think the biggest lesson here is that the universe is based on attraction. So whatever you focus on, you will bring towards you. Right. So focus with good feeling on the things that you want. Right. And know that no matter where you are, you can always choose to feel relief.
Always.
Yeah.
Good summary.
Thanks.
Yeah. So hopefully that was helpful. Share, subscribe. And we would love to hear from you, your thoughts, your ideas, topics that you want us to talk about. And we have started a club.
Yes. The Get Happy Club. We are starting January 19th. That's going to be our kickoff party. So if you'd like tickets, let us know soon. And after that, it's going to be every Thursday from 6:30 to 8. We just talk about happiness. Yeah. We talk about ways to bring happiness into your everyday life, how to just live your life feeling better. Yeah. And when you feel better, good things happen to you. So it can be about the stuff, but it's also about the happiness.
It's also about
the happiness is the first stuff that comes to you.
Because when you feel happy, then all that stuff is just a bonus.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So join us. Send us a message if you want to know more about the Get Happy Club. And we will see you next time. For Today's Your Day.
Bye.